Mac, of course, we have to start with the college football playoff. Miami gets into the playoff. This game is Saturday, December 20th, 11 a.m. local time,
Huge.
which I think is very interesting, even though I know those Aggies, some of them are probably already camping out outside of Kyle Field. You have number 10, Miami, visiting number 7, Texas A&M. A&M is a 3.5-point favorite, and these two teams coming off very different finishes to the year. I mean, Texas A&M, of course, was undefeated. They went to Austin, and they kind of got dominated. Like, they really couldn't get much going in that game at all. Marcel Reed tweaked, I believe, his ankle and was kind of gimpy for the rest of the game. But beyond the Texas game, they've looked amazing. And then for Miami, they have the 2 losses, as we have talked about ad nauseum this season. But they finished ridiculously well, outscoring opponents 151-41 over their final 4 games. Not saying they played the toughest opponents, but they did look really good. And Miami actually went 4-1 in November this season, the SMU game at the very beginning of the month, compared to how they have performed in November under Cristobal. A big improvement. Mac, what are let's just start big picture, overall thoughts on this massive game?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited for this matchup. I go back to just sitting there and having PTSD from a couple years ago
Mhm.
of is an ACC team getting in, and just sitting there like, my gosh, this doesn't feel good. And Code Blue, full effect. All of that's out the window. Life is good. I'm happy. I'm celebrating everybody because that Hurricane logo popped up at number 10. And really, I was interested just to see where they were going to be. Where were they going to end up? I could see them as high as number 9. I could see them as low as number 12. Just however they wanted to do that kind of seating, or I guess maybe 10, just because of the ranking. We
Right,
knew they'd
right.
be higher
They
than that.
wouldn't have been 12 in
Yeah,
this
but just
conference.
seeing who they were gonna play, right? Like, where they would be matched up, because I thought a lot would maybe be that Oklahoma game, which could be really, really fun to see that. And then, of course, this matchup. And I think when it first happened, my immediate thought was the lines of scrimmage on this game are
Mhm.
going to be insane. I mean, it is going to be a war on both sides every single snap. And you just look at the production, the NFL players, the size, the speed, really just the dominant force that each are for Miami's offense and defensive line and Texas A&M's offense and defensive line. I mean, it is great on great, and I cannot wait to watch that. And the fact that we're going to be there, the huddle will be there, we'll be on the field. I get to change my vantage point to see the best angle of that every play. It's going to be so fun. I mean, I am thrilled to see that. And that's kind of where big picture, I think it really starts, because it's playoff football. Like, it is survive and advance. It is make the best game plan for that one game. You're not worried about what is someone going to see down the road. You're not worried about, oh, this guy's dealing with, no, all hands on deck. Give our best shot, our best stuff right now. You're not thinking about anything else, which I love that. I love that. We're going to see the best of both these guys. I mean, Shannon Dawson offensively versus Mike Elko
Ooh.
defensively. I mean, that's going to be really fun to see that, kind of chess match there. And then on the other side, you've got Corey Heatherman, who has done numbers to this defense. I mean, he has boosted them so well, and how well they're playing. If they get a couple guys back and healthy, that's going to be huge, kind of for them. So that's kind of my big picture, KG, looking at those lines of scrimmage and just the chess matches that will, when you have such great talent, how do you try to get an edge? How do you try to
Mhm.
get a leg up? Is that with stunting? Is that with quick game? Is that with screens to slow down a pass rush? I don't know. It's going to be really fun to see.
And we'll get to the injury aspect because we have an update there. But you're getting me thinking here, Mac. Again, big picture. There are not that many people out there in the world who have played in a college football playoff game, and I am talking to one of them.
How about that?
So, and I know you were in a 14 playoff, so it's different, but you
Yeah.
still,
It was harder. It's harder to get in. It's
sure,
easy now.
sure.
Just
Yeah,
show
yeah,
up.
yeah.
They let you in.
Well, you got to win less games at that point. So you won the semifinals, and you got to the national championship. What did anything, and you had a lot more time to prep because I believe the semis were on New Year's Day at that point, so it
Yeah.
wasn't, you weren't prepping this or New Year's Eve. What felt different, if anything, about a
Mhm.
playoff game?
I think the magnitude of it, just understanding that this is a bigger deal. Now, I will say our coaches and Dabo, as y'all know, does such a great job of, making every game the same and
Yeah.
treating it like a bowl game and, things of that nature where you still did all the cool stuff. I don't think that does not take place here in
No.
these first rounds. I mean, this truly is just an away game for Miami. It's a
Like, there's
home
not a
game.
lot of cool stuff to do in College
No,
Station,
well,
respectfully.
and maybe that respectfully, as you said. So that's a little bit different, but just understanding that you're not done. Like you win this one, there's more to be played. From just that mindset of let's go. This is a whole new season. So that's kind of how we looked at it. Again, then of course the next game being the national championship, a little different, for us, but. You're just happy to be playing football. You're happy to be surviving and advancing, and ultimately your goal being right in front of you, winning the national championship.
Yeah, that's you're one of the few, Mac. I mean, that's you gotta
It's
be
cool.
proud of that.
There's
Come
getting
on.
more and more by the day, they're
I guess.
stacking.
I guess so. All right. So overall, when we look at the matchups, you talked about lines of scrimmage. I think from a Miami perspective, what probably worries me the most is these receivers for Texas A&M. KC Concepcion, I mean, we're all very familiar with him from his NC State days. Mario Craver has been electric for them. Bethel Roman has been emerging, and Marcel Reed can get the ball out to those guys. And
Yeah.
then that brings us to the injury update. Keontae Scott, I thought he was out. And then Mario
Mhm.
Cristobal saying something like this, Mac, we're not sure. We're very hopeful. We know he's going to be back in the near future, expected in the near future. I cannot say exactly. He's trending in the right direction. So I don't know if that's just gamesmanship
Right.
or what. I mean, this is a guy with 4 to 4 tackles, 10 TFLs, 3 sacks, a pick. Like, he's electric. And so when you look at that secondary for Miami and you look at these receivers for A&M, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to play, but overall, I mean, is that kind of outside the lines of scrimmage? Is that the matchup, one of the matchups you're watching too?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question when you look at what Casey Concepcion did this year. I mean, he won a bunch of awards. He was on like 3 different spots on the first team All-American list. I mean, this guy is a freak, and we know him, and ACC fans know him
Yeah.
extremely well. I mean, he was amazing, what he was able to do at NC State, and now has obviously taken that, to another level here and been really the go-to guy. Mario Craver, another guy that was fantastic. He has dealt with some injuries on and off. Will he be available? Will be interesting to see. But yeah, you better know where Concepcion is. I mean, he's very dynamic, and he's very similar to what they do with Tony. I mean, they'll line him up, they'll let him throw it, they'll let him run it. It's kind of a mirror image, if you will. And the good thing for Miami is they've seen that every day in practice. They know what a player that versatile can do, and he's a great returner just like Tony is as well. So you need to know where 7 is. High alert, wherever that guy, like everybody pointing to him, at the end of the day is what you really want to see. Um, and then you add in the factor of Marcel Reed and how
Yeah.
great of a player he is when he's on. It is very similar. Again, these teams are very similar to each other in the fact that so is Carson Beck. When he's playing at his best, he's as good as
Uh-huh.
anybody in the country. Marcel Reed, I think there was a stint of time, like a 5-game stretch there where I thought he was going to win the Heisman. I mean, he was playing so well, has been trending a little bit backwards, a little bit downhill, kind of going back to his old ways, turning the football over, not being super effective. I mean, obviously, wants all of that Texas game back and wants
Oof.
to, play better there. But he's dangerous with his legs, and this is a whole new season. I think that's another, kind of underrated thing about bowl season and a college football playoff is that last week ends and you're restarting. I mean, you are shutting everything down. You are it's a whole new season. And so if you mentally can get rid of that,
Uh-huh.
Marcel Reed, let's go to work. I mean, let's be that player, that we were for a little bit there. That should be his mindset and the things that he's thinking of course, all these guys around him. Reuben Owens is a fantastic back. He's a big back, a guy that just 6 foot, 215 pounds. Again, a kind of a mirror image of what
Yeah.
Miami has on the other side. It's really interesting how these guys are built in the way that they look. And listen, he wants that game back too. He got 14 something carries, like 30 yards
Mhm.
against Texas. So, I think it is going to be just interesting how they do that and what challenges A&M wants to provide and present there. And again, a really good offensive line. They're going to have their hands full with this Miami defensive line. And I think the interesting thing, KG, when you have people out and about and in the media, before the game is played, disrespecting opponents and saying, about Ruben Bain. I
Oh,
think it
yeah.
was Trey Zunn, the offensive tackle there, just saying, we're not too worried about that. Like he's not going to affect the game. And I'm just wondering why. What
Why say
why? give
Why?
him that. You know, as offensive linemen, we pride ourselves in being really smart and really complimentary of the other opponent and the other team. And then to give that guy that, I mean, he's a psychopath. You understand that, right? Like he writes F the other team in his notes. There's no notes. It just says that. Like that's all it says. And now your name's probably on there. You're target number one. And why you want to do that to yourself, I don't
Good
know.
luck.
And hey, maybe you'll be ready. But that's a different animal now. And I know you play in the SEC, but that guy's a top 5 pick. I mean, he is a freak. And he gave him extra motivation. I don't know if that was a smart play.
Two things that made me think of. Number one, when Akeem Mesidor told us that Corey Heatherman had them being aggressive in everything, including their aggressive note taking,
Right. Yes.
which I feel like you're just etching in stone
Yeah, right.
at that point. And then the other thing too is when the Florida staff said that the toughest D line they had seen and of course they have recently been fired, so that is unfortunate. But the toughest D line they'd seen in their tenure at Florida was the D line at Miami. So
Right.
I think that matchup, in addition to when you look at the Miami secondary with their health and the A&M receivers, the A&M O-line and the Miami D-line, because the A&M O-line's only given up 12 sacks all season.
Yeah.
And obviously Marcel Reed is also mobile, so he helps with that.
Mhm.
But that's, that's a difference maker there. And if I'm A&M, like, it's interesting, Mac, because A&M, as the number 7 team in the country, they're gonna do them, but if I was them, I would look at some aspects of the Louisville game plan
Oh, yeah.
because obviously Louisville played in an SMU game. I think Miami beat themselves more.
Right.
Louisville, with how quickly they got the ball out using Chris Bell, I mean, you've got all the weapons. Like, they basically neutralized the Miami D-line in that game, getting the ball out
Correct.
quickly. So, do you expect to see some of that from A&M? I know A&M's gonna do them, but
100%, 100%. And I think that at the end of the day, again, the fact that this is a playoff game, you're doing any and every throw out what we do. What can we do better in this game? How can we attack you? It's certainly you're going to be who you are and do what got you to this point, but there's a lot of strategy in these games where you have so much lead in. Again, this staff on both sides watching this film, finding any weakness, 100%. I would have watched that 20 times by now if I was Texas A&M, that Louisville Miami game, and just trying to find, okay, what do we do that they do? How can we exploit similar things? And one thing, as good as these receivers are, I mean, I don't think they're Chris Bell. They're not as thick and as strong,
really
and as explosive. Like Casey's small, very
big
good, elite,
difference. Sure.
one of the best. But he's not breaking through 5 arm tackles like Chris Bell did, having 90 yards, after the catch, breaking through tackles. And if he does, you tip your cap and you say, well, not our day, if that guy's able to do things of that nature. So I do think certainly they're going to get the ball out quick because you cannot just sit back there, build, pack snowballs and think that your offensive line is going to have all the time in the world. That they are going to put in rabbit packages. Miami is going to utilize, these defensive linemen, these defensive ends. 3 and 4 are going to be on the same side a lot, trying
Mhm.
to stress and overload, those guys, which is fantastic. So yeah, that chess match between how aggressive, how quickly can we get the ball out from the offensive side, that is going to be really, really fun to watch.
The other number I wanted to bring up here with Texas A&M, we talk about defense now for them and Miami's offense against A&M's defense. We know, of course, turnovers are going to be huge. They're always huge in these types of games. And for Miami, when Carson Beck has had some multiple interception games, that's been an issue. The SMU loss and the Louisville loss. So I think that's obvious that you can't afford to have that. But A&M, one of their numbers that's pretty crazy that stands out, they allow their opponents to convert only 22% of third down opportunities. That's the
Mhm.
lowest rate in
Yes.
FBS by 6 percentage points,
Yeah.
Mac.
Yeah.
6 percentage points better than Indiana, on pace to be the second lowest by an FBS team in the past 20 seasons.
Wow.
Michigan in 2016 was the other one. So that is pretty crazy, especially when you have the home crowd behind you, which
Mhm.
they will in College Station. And we all know, Mac, like, to be good on third down, you have to be good on first and second down. Like, it's not
Right.
just third down.
Sure.
Come on, right? Well, that's super important, and Miami's gotta be able to establish the run, whether that's Mark Fletcher or some of these other young guys that have been working. But that's huge, Mac, because I think we've talked a lot about this A&M offense, but the defense has also been really good.
Oh, no, they've been great, and I think one thing that, has been a little bit lacking, and certainly in that last game, has been the run defense. They've given
Sure.
up a bunch of yards, all year, and specifically in a Texas game where maybe it's different. It's a rivalry. There's a, there's mental things in that game. As good as Texas A&M is, it's still Texas, and getting over that hump is difficult. But Texas's offensive line all year has been horrific. I mean, they've been one of the worst in the SEC, protecting their quarterback, establishing the run. They ran the ball all over these boys. I
Yeah.
mean, they lowered the shoulder. They were averaging 6.5 yards a carry, things they hadn't done all year against SEC opponents. They did it in that game, and so that's a little bit concerning if you're a Texas A&M fan, because now you have one of the best offensive lines in the country coming down the track. You have one of the best running attacks in the country coming down the train track here. What are you going to do? And I think when you look at these guys, they fly around the ball. The headliner is obviously Cassius Howell. I mean, a guy that has 12 sacks on the season is a war daddy. Like, he is so good. You need to know where he is. And again, I hope we see him and Francis Maui-Noah going at it all game long. I mean, that's what I would love to see, and something that I think can be a really big and interesting piece of this puzzle. But the one thing that is interesting is if you run right at them, and if you go right at them from Jump Street, sometimes that can affect defensive ends, especially that are so good as pass rushers. He has 12 sacks. He has 29 total tackles. So you're talking about almost 50% of his production are sacks, not tackling the run, not playing the run. And defensive end, a little different animal, and especially how their defense is built. But I think that that's something that, certainly is going to be fun to watch. And you need to know where that guy is. They might move him around. They're going to try to put him in adverse situations here. But on the Miami offensive side, I think when you're going into a place, KG, that has 105 plus thousand people that are going to be juiced up, are excited. This is literally the biggest game ever to be played at College Station. That 12th man that they hang their hat on, that is so important, that is like historically relevant forever, they're going to do their part. And so how do you remove them? Run the football, sustain long drives, suck the life out of the stadium. And I think Miami can do that. And again, you kind of look at what Duke did to Virginia. I'm not saying you want to condense the game maybe that much, but you muddle huddle, you slow the game down. And if you can
Mm.
effectively run, you will change this game. You will frustrate Marcel Reed in that offense because they're going to have limited possessions. That's the secret to me. Can this offensive line man up and be who I think they can be and walk the ball down the field? Protect Carson when you want to throw it. Get creative if you want to in the run and pass game with Tony, but line it up and run power. Line it up and run duo. Line it up and run counter. Inside outside zone. I mean, stretch it out. Allow those cutback lanes to happen. I think that would be my mental space. Is we're going to flex our muscles. We see that you're in the SEC. That's great, but we're Miami, and this is what we do.
Mm.
That's what I would do.
Mac, a couple of Miami fans who are watching this may have just run through a wall.
Let's
Um,
go.
they're ready for this game. All right, well, let's make a pick here because we have
Come
some
on.
other games that we would like to get into. This, okay, because A&M's a 3.5 point favorite, to me, this is a pick 'em, basically. And the game's in College Station, so you're giving that edge to A&M there. The game is also at 11 a.m. I
I know.
really think that helps Miami. You would
Yeah,
much rather play this game at 11 a.m. than 8 p.m. in
correct.
College Station. I'm not saying that the crowd's still going to be fantastic, but it's just a different animal.
Yeah.
I I'm taking Miami here, Mac. I think
Yeah.
Miami, with the momentum they have, how well they're playing, A&M still's got to kind of figure themselves out after that Texas loss. Hopefully for Miami, the crowd isn't that insane. Give me Miami plus the points, but also I just think Miami's going to win the game.
Yeah. And 3.5 right now is essentially a pick 'em,
Right.
at a home game when you look at, kind of getting the 3 points for being at home there. And I'm with you. I think these are two very good teams. I would not be surprised at all if either one of these two teams win the national championship. I think this is by far and away, the best matchup in the first round, the most exciting matchup in the first round. But there is a little bit of a feeling that Miami's going this way and Texas, not drastic. It's not like you're
No,
free falling
but
in an
yeah.
elevator, but it feels like they aren't playing their best football right now, and Miami is. And so that matters in one game matchups and one game seasons here. For those reasons, again, I agree with you. I think Miami gets it done. I think having players back is going to be key, really for both sides. Both sides are banged up. Everybody's banged up. It's the end of the year, and I do think that Carson Beck wants to prove who he is, and he's been electric. I mean, we hardly talked about him this last month. He's been insane. He's been as accurate as anyone in the country. He's been pushing the ball downfield. He's going to have his great wide receiver, back catching the ball and being able to do things down the field like we saw early in the season, and of course Malachi Tony as well. So, give me the Canes to cover here and actually just to win. I think they win this game.
Well, that may not shock people, but that's what we think's going to happen there, Eric McLean.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have energy smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
D-Money, welcome back, brother. The Canes are in the college football playoff. Words that I anticipated saying, but it still was weird, that day. And of course, big production. We're going to make it,
Wow.
all the anxiety and make it as dramatic as we can. So I kind of want to go to where you were. Where were you watching? Where were your nerves? What were you feeling like? And then what was the feeling when that logo popped up?
Yeah, I was feeling good. My son pitched in the All-Star game that morning, and his changeup was landing, which it can be hit or miss. So that was a good omen. I thought we're on the right side today. And then I was just at home going crazy. But we talked about it. So we did a show with you guys 3 weeks before, with 3 games to go. And I said, look, I've been watching WWE for a long time. This feels like a WWE type setup. And then when they did the switcheroo, you had Joey Gallo and all these guys like, oh, it's a WWE script. Why'd they do it like that? Should have seen the signs coming, right? When Alabama jumped Notre Dame for no reason. But it was awesome, man. And I truly want to thank, you both and your team and everybody, at the ACC Network, ACC Digital. I know Canes fans, they don't have a lot of love for a lot of media people, but you guys have 100% approval rating, Kelly and Max. So that's a rare category. And, the way you fight for, not for the Canes, but for the conference, right?
Yeah.
And common sense in this case. So just an awesome moment
the
for
common
Canes
sense
fans.
phrase
Right.
was very frequent flyer towards the end of the deal there. So just how about for you personally, man? 'Cause I know you obviously are a media member and you cover these guys and
Kind of a media member.
Yeah, you want to whatever, but you're also a Canes fan, and to see your team in the college football playoff, I mean it's amazing. So what was that like for you again when you saw that logo pop up?
I mean, it's been a long time, man. It's
Yeah.
you go back to really since 2003 that Miami's truly been what you'd call a national championship contender, right? Certainly at this time of the year. And even in 2003, it was fading around this time, that playing in the Orange Bowl. But that's a long time. I mean, Malachi Tony is 18 years old, right?
Wasn't
So
born.
he wasn't even born. He has not lived at any point where Miami's contended for a championship truly. And that's, pretty crazy when you think about how this program was. Even the probation era, which was a downturn in the 90s, was a short period compared to this last, basically the struggles in the ACC, which is 2 decades plus. So just awesome to see, excited for the players. This really is a good group of young men. I know you've been around them. You've been down there. You've interviewed these guys. They really are hardworking, good kids that play hard, and they're fun to watch, man. I'm happy for the playoff to be able to see a Malachi Tony and a Ruben Bain and Carson Beck and see some of these guys perform. Because I think if they were not in this tournament, obviously it would be a tough thing for the conference, but also just for the fans and the casuals to see a great, entertaining team that's going to compete really hard against Texas A&M.
Absolutely. And the Miami homegrown kids. I always think that's so cool with Malachi Tony, Ruben Bain, 2 of the guys you mentioned, and many others. It's fascinating and awesome for the sport to see these guys stay home and pick Miami. Besides seeing the logo, which was huge, right, D-Money? And you really put it in perspective since 2003. Like, that's wild. When you saw the matchup, Texas A&M in College Station, by far the best first-round matchup. Also an 11 a.m. local kick, which is weird. What were your overall thoughts on the matchup when you first saw that pop up?
Toughest one, I think, for Miami that you could have had of all those teams. Ole Miss, I think, a little more vulnerable than Texas A&M. There was some weird kind of flipping going on with those 2 teams, right? But I mean, ultimately, Ole Miss only one loss. They get the higher nod there, even though I think probably Texas A&M more dangerous. But 11 o'clock kick, local time is going to help, I think, Miami as much as it can help being in that environment. It's just not going to be as rowdy. It's earlier in the day. The weather looks like it's going to be like 70 something degrees. So it should be a pretty, favorable weather conditions. Yeah, for the Hurricanes coming from South Florida. So I think, look, like you said, it's going to be a very entertaining game. The style matchup, two of the best offensive lines in the country. I know they're not facing each other, but you get to see them on display. Really good defensive lines as well. Two quarterbacks that are kind of similar in that when they're on, they get Heisman buzz. When they're off, they get a lot of criticism. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Malachi Tony, Concepcion for Texas A&M, Mario Craver at Bethel Roman. There's a lot of explosive players in this game. Gerard Pringle, who we talked about on the last show we did, kind of emerging. He's continued that emergence, the running back for the Canes, adding a speed element. So I think there's a lot of exciting players, and just the way it shapes up, this should be a game with a lot of big plays and a lot of excitement.
Yeah, there's just so much juice, so many great players. The matchups are fantastic individually. You mentioned that line of scrimmage, and to me, that's where really it starts and ends. I mean, the winner that can stop the run and establish the run is going to win this game. I mean, I just feel that in my soul here. What is your confidence level of Miami running the football effectively against these guys? Because there's been a lot of people that have done it at a high clip. I have to imagine they're salivating a little bit looking at that tape.
Yeah, it's so there's strength on strength matchups and I guess weakness versus weakness. So the weakness versus weakness to me is Miami's not been a team that runs outside the tackles at a high rate, even though they have such big tackles. They're usually an inside the tackle type of operation and have been really since Cristobal's been here. So Texas A&M, when you look at their defense, their ends are upfield guys. Cassius Howell, undersized, but very good at getting at the passer. They're number one team in the country in terms of sacks. But you can run at them off tackle. You saw Texas, which is not a very good running team, just run all over Texas A&M, big chunk plays outside. So I think with Miami, it's okay. Well, we had not necessarily excelled in that direction. In general, yards per carry, Miami's in the 90s in yards per carry this year when they've been living in the top 5, top 10, top 20, the last 2 years. And Cristobal, that goes back to Oregon. So that was a big drop off. I think Gerard Pringle, who we mentioned earlier, the speedy 10-6, 100-meter back, top 100, top 150 back last year from Tampa, he's changed that a little bit and added some speed to the operation so he could have a big game. And of course, Miami's tackles are huge, with Francis Malinois probably the best right tackle in the country. Markel Bell, in my opinion, maybe the best left tackle in the ACC with what he's done pass blocking and then just his overall size and length. So on paper, you're saying run off tackle, but that's not something Miami's done effectively over the course of the year. Something's got to give there, and I think that's one of the key matchups to watch.
Completely agree. And running the ball in that stadium, in this type of environment, and then allowing Carson Beck to kind of pick his moments with how good A&M is on third down, you're going to have to run the football defensively on third down, is what I meant. The other matchup that fascinates me, you alluded to these receivers for Texas A&M. I mean, really good. There's this stat where the Aggies are one of 3 FBS teams with multiple 800-yard receivers this season. The other 2, Ohio State and Tennessee, is really impressive. Of course, Concepcion, we're all very familiar with over here in ACC country. So when you look at this secondary, Miami secondary, massively improved, right? So that's going to be a fun matchup. Keontae Scott, can you break us down? What do you think is going to happen with this matchup? And then more specifically, Keontae Scott, what have you been hearing? Is there a chance he can go? Because Cristobal seems to have changed his tune on that.
Yeah, so it's turf toe, and we all know that's one of those tricky injuries, right? So much about feel and pain tolerance, and just it's hard to know unless you're in the player's body, right? And just a lot can change in a short period of time. So I think there's obviously a push for him to be ready to play. He is going as hard as he can, seeing every kind of specialist trying to get ready to play. He was probably the best nickel in the country when he was healthy. I don't think that's a Canes perspective. I think that's sort of a national perspective. I know top 100 draft pick was on the table, so you'd love to have him back. Emotional leader. Even when he was hurt, he was coaching on the sidelines. He just means so much to this team. And of course, this matchup where you have 3 smaller receivers that are so dynamic, to have a Keontae Scott out there would be huge. Bryce Fitzgerald, who is, kind of a jack of all trades as a true freshman. He plays safety. He can play that slot, that nickel corner, cover the slot. He's super athletic and fast, has 4 interceptions on the year as a true freshman, making a lot of freshman All-America lists. He's the one, I think, that if Keontae Scott can't go, to keep an eye on, because he is such a dynamic player, such a dynamic athlete. Probably, look, Malachi Tony gets all the buzz. rightfully so. But if you're talking about the other freshman All-America, Bryce Fitzgerald is truly a dynamic talent with all kinds of 4.4 speed, multi-sport background, can return kicks to the house. He's just a very talented athlete who can make a major impact on this game if given the opportunity. So if Keontae Scott can't go, keep an eye on number 13, Bryce Fitzgerald, because he's the type of guy. You saw him against Florida State. His interception and long return was really what I think broke the dam for Florida State in that game and got Miami really rolling to get that big lead. He can make those kind of plays in this kind of environment.
Let's stay on the defensive side of the ball because I think there's a little bit of extra motivation maybe supplied by Texas A&M. I don't know why you want to get in the media and do anything but compliment guys, but Ruben Bain was in the crosshairs of a Texas A&M offensive lineman there, and they said they're not worried about number 4 there, that they'll be all right, and he won't be much of a factor. Knowing Ruben Bain the way that you do, what does that do for him in this game?
Well, look, that's gonna be a great matchup. Trey Zune, who made the comments, he's actually a really good player. So it's not like it was like,
right,
a scrub saying that. That's,
right.
That's gonna be a heck of a matchup. But yeah, not the person I would want to talk to. Ruben Bain, I don't know if you guys saw his notebook that he did over the course of the year where he would just write some pretty foul things about the opponent in there, getting ready for the game. So he doesn't need a lot of motivation. Now he has extra motivation. Also, it's going to be interesting where he lines up because Zune, who made the comments as the left tackle, is Bain going to line up out there? You have Messidor as well. I mean, either one of those guys can cause a lot of problems. But I remember a play against Florida State. This is in Tallahassee where Bain got hit late and someone got a personal foul against him, and he was pulled from the game for Armando Blunt. And he told Jason Taylor, whoever was subbing him out, no, I'm not leaving. I'm staying on. He ended up staying on, getting a tackle for loss the next play, basically, tossing aside the guy who had gotten the penalty against him. So he is that kind of guy, probably more so than anybody on this team. So not the person you want to get upset.
Big picture, it's really interesting because we talked with you a lot last year and you had Cam Moore. Like you had, he had one of the best seasons from a college quarterback we've seen in maybe ever, especially in Miami as well. Number 1 overall pick, but you didn't make the playoff. And now this team, you have Carson Beck, still a very good quarterback, but not Cam Ward. But so many other pieces around. Malachi Tony brings a different dimension, all these different types of things. What can you say about what Cristobal's done in how this team is much more prepared for a playoff run, perhaps, than even just last year's iteration?
Yeah, I think obviously the defense is kind of the first thing you look to. Just philosophically, the idea that you don't need to treat Miami like they're a MAC team and doing all these kind of different things up front to create pressure. You can just sort of let your guys go and obviously recruit elite players like a Ruben Bain, Messidor through the portal, Justin Scott, 5-star players really emerging, David Blay from the portal, Ahmad Moten, a homegrown guy who to me has become one of the better defensive tackles in the ACC. So just philosophically simplifying that defense and continuing to accumulate talent on that side of the ball has made this team a lot more ready to make a run. Just the overall culture on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, so we could talk about scheme all day, but the way they run to the football, the way they finish, the way they play as a team, the consistency game to game, I think is huge. The communication, because I don't know, to me last year, it wasn't so much an issue of effort as it was communication. There were some huge breakdowns in the secondary consistently. So even though you maybe didn't have as much talent in the secondary as you had this year, a lot of it was, take no talent type situations, communication, just being in the right place. And I think that's really improved this year from last year, is the communication. Offensive side of the ball, we were the number 1 offense in the country last year. So, I mean, I think that didn't need to change too much, but Beck has done a really nice job of stabilizing. You're losing a guy like Cam Ward and still having a top 20 scoring offense in the country. Offensive line continues to pass block at an elite level. I think the one area where you look at last year and you say we need to get back to that would be running the football. Yeah. And just running at that level, and maybe some of the explosive plays that you saw last year. You didn't see it as much throughout the course of the year with the Canes. Their explosive play rate dropped quite a bit, but has improved in the last 4 weeks with guys like Malachi Tony taking on a bigger role, playing quarterback, doing all the things he does. And then again, Gerard Pringle at running back with his elite speed, making a big difference there.
Yeah. Danny, last one for you, man. We're grateful for your time. And I do want to stay with Carson Beck there. he has been on an absolute tear to finish this season. And I mean, he's been super steady all year. I know everybody wants to point and scream about the Louisville game. And listen, it was the worst game of his playing career. And it is what it is. You have those, right? We all have one worst game. And it was unfortunate, that he had it this year and that he had it, at that type of state and that type of environment. But it happened. And I think he has bounced back extremely well. It was basically 80% to finish, November, which is insane. Bunch of touchdowns, just one pick against Pittsburgh there in an entire month of play. What have you seen from him, to finish this season from a leadership, confidence standpoint, and what makes you think, he's ready to go on a playoff run with these boys?
Yeah, first of all, since we're ACC, I want to give props to Louisville. You watch that tape. I mean, Louisville made some incredible plays on those interceptions. Those were not right at the numbers. These were like diving fingertip catches, incredible plays. There's a lot of ACC teams at the top of the charts when it comes to interceptions this year. SMU, another one, right? So Pittsburgh gets a lot of picks. So, Notre Dame, which is maybe the best secondary in the country, was not picking off Carson Beck like that. So give some credit, to Louisville. I know you know what kind of athletes they have and maybe underrated nationally. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with Beck is he didn't have spring. He really didn't have summer, maybe a little bit towards the end, but he did not have summer. So you have camp and you go right into Notre Dame, which is a game where, you're just trying to get to the winner's circle. You're not necessarily out there letting it rip, right? So it was a process to get fully comfortable. I think a lot of that happened during the season. Some of the guys he was throwing to, Elijah Lofton, number 9, the tight end, JoJo Trader, a wide receiver who was expected to maybe be the top receiver going into the 25 season. Those guys were injured in fall. So not only did he miss all the other time, but when he got back, some guys weren't there. So they're really building their chemistry during the season. And I think that's a lot of what happens. Also, the physical, he was cleared, but he said, it felt a little weird throwing. It wasn't that his arm was weaker. It was just, it felt different, right? So he just had to adjust to his own body. And I think you watch him now, that arm looks every bit as live as it did at Georgia. He just looks confident. He's starting to run a little more as well. He's never going to be a runner, but just at least, keeping people honest. And I think all those things and just getting more reps in this system, which is a new system for him as well, has allowed him to peak at the right time. His release is as quick as ever. He's protecting the ball. Even the interception against Pitt, he has slipped his hands. It wasn't like a Reed situation and just lost it, came back, then threw a touchdown to CJ Daniels, finished strong. So, yeah, he's playing at a very, very high level. He's got competition at quarterback, right, with Malachi Toney taking some snaps, so maybe he's feeling that pressure too.
That's right.
But yeah, it's clicking at the right time, going against a SEC opponent. We know this is not something that's going to shake him or throw him off. He's been in big games like this. He's been in environments like this, and I think he's got a lot to prove. And you're happy to have a quarterback with there's so much experience and high-level experience like Carson Beck instead of someone, like a Jennings last year, where I think if Kevin Jennings got back in the playoffs this next time, he'd play a lot better.
Of course.
But that was a big jump for him, whereas Beck, I think, has been around quite a bit.
Moments. Yeah, no question, man. It's going to be exciting to see. Can't wait to see you there. We'll both be there. It's going to be a fun game, great environment, great battle on the field. We're grateful for your time, man. Great to see you.
Hey, always a pleasure. Appreciate you guys.
Rhoback just dropped their licensed game day collection. Polos, hoodies, Q-zips, custom designed for your school. On game days, we wear Rhoback, period.